Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. Today, Cool Your Heels with Lillian Cauldwell as a special guest, Vivian King, who wrote the book When the Words Suddenly Stopped, Finding My Voice Again After a Massive Stroke. So, good morning, Vivian. How are you doing this cloudy day?
Good morning. Well, yeah, it's been kind of off and on cloudy, sunny here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So right now it's a mild and calm time, but an early morning gathering that my job was having, we decided to cancel that because of the threat of rain throughout the day. So, but we're still here, so I'm fine.
Take an umbrella with you. It was supposed to be a really bad day yesterday, and I took an umbrella with me, and when I went outside, and it didn't start pouring until late afternoon. So it kept the curse away.
Exactly. Exactly.
So could you please tell everybody, Vivian, what happened before the stroke so people can get an idea of how massive it was when it struck?
Yeah, I was just living my life happily, going to work every day, involved in different things. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have a history of stroke in my family. So this thing was a shocker. And what happened on October 25th, 2013, was that I woke up, and it was a Friday morning, and I lamented the fact that I had to get up and go to a Girl Scouts breakfast just because I just felt, I don't feel like going. But then I said my friend who invited me weeks ago, and I don't want to disappoint her, so I'm going to get up and go. So I felt fine that morning. I got up, got dressed. I was walking out of the house, and I didn't have on my makeup. Sometimes I don't put it on right away, and I will do it on my way if I'm kind of in a rush. And so that's what I had planned to do. So on my way to the Girl Scouts breakfast, I didn't even start doing my makeup, which is very unusual. I am a former TV reporter and anchor, and so I always try to be camera ready, if you will. And so I normally would put makeup on if I'm going to an event that has hundreds of people. And I did not do my makeup on the way, and once I got to the destination, I did not even think about it. I got out of the car, walked into the hotel, walked into the ballroom where this was taking place, said hi to people according to them, sat down. People asked me if I was feeling okay and maybe I should eat something. I took one bite of sausage, and that's the last thing I remember clearly for nearly 10 days. They had to call the paramedics because I had collapsed at the Girl Scouts breakfast. I was having a seizure. I was rushed to the nearest hospital. I was there for about an hour before the doctors decided to rush me to a second hospital that specializes in stroke care. And I was in neurological ICU for 10 days and then in the hospital for a total of 32 days because I had suffered a stroke and needed to recover.
Yeah, that sounds like you did a good job on yourself. Congratulations. Although those are not the kind of congratulations you want to hear. And I'm sure the Girl Scouts have put together programs since then to introduce their girls to what will happen should you have a stroke and what you need to do and earn a badge with it, too, I'm sure. So
I hope so.
Yeah, don't you think that would be a perfect badge for a Girl Scout to earn?
I think it would be an excellent badge because what the doctors told me was that birth control pills over the age of 40 is what caused a blood clot in my brain, and I had no idea about that. I understand that, of course, it's in the fine print, but when your doctor is prescribing it and you have had it before, you don't tend to, at least I did not tend to look at that. And so it had not been a problem before, and so I did not realize it was a problem now. I have since learned that there are women who have had strokes even at younger ages, in their 20s, and that were related to contraceptives. And so this just needs to be a dialogue between women and their doctors. And yes, I think we need to talk to young girls as well so that they know what to look forward to and what to look out for as they grow into young women and older women.
So you're going to make sure that you have that talk with your friend to make sure she introduces that into the Girl Scout troops, because I really believe that something that they need to be aware of. When I listen to all the medications on TV that they're advertising, I always listen to what could happen if, and then you have to decide whether it's worth it versus the risks you're taking with the medication. And after listening to some of those lists of what can happen to you, I always opt out because, frankly, I won't even get started. And it's a shame that they don't tell you these things.
Yeah, and in those commercials, don't they always have like a nice soothing voice that kind of lulls you sometimes into really not paying attention? And so you're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, because your mind is saying, this is a nice person saying this, but that really doesn't matter. Subconsciously, that's what, you're lulling your mind to think. But you need to pay attention to the fine print and the nice voice on the commercial.
And find your voice, ladies, even when you're 14 or 15, because I know there are a lot of girls whose parents put them on the pill when they reach that age and say, what can this do to me 10 years from now? Because they really need to think that way. They really do. So, Vivian, please tell everybody the struggles that you went through in order to get your life back.
So I, after getting out of neurological ICU, I was in inpatient rehab for 22 extra days, and I had to take speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. And speech therapy mainly because the blood clot was over the on the left side of my brain, over the part that manages your speech. And when it bled out, it killed all of the brain cells in that area, and I could not talk for 3.5 weeks. And that's where I got the title, When the Words Suddenly Stopped. And so the speech therapy was very important, and I had to, learn words again, learn how to write my name and address, and just that whole communications area in the brain was just impacted. I could still think and understand, but I couldn't talk. And so, for instance, each morning I would have breakfast, and then I would have to go to one of my rehab classes, or rehab sessions, I should say. And every single time I arrived, they would say, Vivian, what did you have for breakfast? And I could remember exactly what I had, but I couldn't say it. And so I had to really just keep practicing, just keep doing the exercises that my therapist wanted me to do. I had, in my book, I really talk about what got me through. And when I sat down and thought about it, I said, something to remember, the 3 Ps. You need to have a posse, you need to have persistence, and you need to have prayer. And so this therapy part was really the persistence, because I just really kept trying. And then my posse around me were very encouraging. And you need a good posse around you to kind of help you stay positive, if you will. And then, of course, I'm a faithful person, and prayer is so important. And I feel like we need to thank God in the good times and the bad times, because he's always with you. And if you rely on that strength, then it will get you through even on the bad days. And so I just, was persistent in making sure I was doing what I needed to do. And even when I got out of the hospital, I stayed at a friend's house right after I got out of the hospital. It was the week of Thanksgiving, 2 days before Thanksgiving. And my mother, who lives in a different state, had to go back and check on my dad and my grandmother at the time. And I stayed with my friend for about a week until my mom came back. And then we came back to my place. But even in that time, I had a break from therapy, but I started writing in my journal. And I started, I made pies for Thanksgiving. And so that kind of was my own speech and my own occupational therapy, if you will, while I was not necessarily with an official therapist. So you just really need to keep practicing, because as I started writing my journal, like the first day, you could tell I wrote maybe a paragraph. And then my word usage was not where it was before. And then as I got down to like maybe the 8th or 9th day, I was writing more, and practice made perfect. And I eventually, of course, got back to my old self. But it really did take just doing what the doctors and therapists suggested so that you can get back to normal.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you think this is an easy process, think again. It is not. I had a stroke. I lost all sense of balance. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to balance again. I still don't have my balance. This was 30 years ago. So when Vivian is talking about the 3 Ps, pay attention, because depression is a large part of what the stroke does to you.
Yeah, and Lillian, I did not realize you had a stroke, but it just brings to mind that every stroke is different. To me, it's like a fingerprint. Everybody it attacks them differently. People recover differently. And so, everybody could write a book about their experience, and somebody could get information from your experience. But there are people who I had talked to a gentleman the other day who said his friend, who was a big businessman, still has halting speech, but his mind is still there, and he just talks to him like his old friend, because he understands, he understands that his mind is still there, and his old friend is inside. So it just affects people in so many different ways, and we just need to be mindful of that.
Absolutely. When I used to speak, sometimes I would put in the wrong words, and the people who I associated with within my business, and they were very patient. They would wait until I finally got out what I thought I was trying to say, and then they sort of filled in the cracks with what they deduced. And in the end, we both won. But this is when you have a stroke, and even when you're recovering, it has to be a partnership in healing.
Yes, absolutely.
You can't do it by yourself. This is not the time to strike out on your own, folks. It's not an independent healing. It is a team sport, as they say.
Absolutely, it is a team sport. And it also, I thought about the fact that you do not get through life by yourself. You have to have help. Somebody helped you along the way. And so I wrote this book to not only warn people about the link between birth control pills and blood clots and stroke, but also to really thank the people around me who not only were my inner circle, but were kind of my outer circle as well. I'm really active on Facebook, and during this time, people on Facebook just said prayers, sent positive thoughts, and so it was it just galvanized everybody around me. And I just really found out who were believers, who just, wanted to make sure I was okay. And we are not on this earth alone, and we need to help each other through everything.
Absolutely. And if you have a child around, I had a child. Yeah, he was around 16 by then. But the point of the matter was, he's now in his mid-40s, and he remembers vividly that I was in the wheelchair for the first 3 years of my marriage, my new marriage. And he was there for me when he brought his friends home. He said, well, my mom's been sick and she's getting better. And then the kids kind of forgot that I was in the wheelchair because Ben said she's getting better, and that they weren't embarrassed about seeing me like that. And I got to tell you, kids are a lot stronger and resilient than you give them credit for.
Aren't they? They really are.
Yes. I really think you need to go back to that Girl Scout troop and say, I'm better now. And I'm here for, whatever you were there for originally, support, motivation, inspiration, or whatever, to show them that whatever life throws at you, you have to dust yourself off, rearrange your skirt and blouse so that the buttons are in the front, and then go forward. Oh, I always worry about my buttons, my dress. If they're on the side, it tells everybody she's a sloppy dresser. Come on. But I just think it's important that you put yourself in front of these ladies, or girls who are going to become ladies in the next 3 or 4 years, and tell them that I overcame, and you can overcome as well. No matter what life throws at you, whether it's on your schedule or it's not, you have to be prepared like the good Girl Scout that you are, so that they know that as tough as life becomes, it's not going to beat them down.
And really, a sickness like this, a health scare like this, just often comes out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And so it's not on your schedule. As working in all of my jobs, I didn't have time to be sick. That's what you say in your head, right? I don't have time to be sick. And so to have this happen, I thought, I guess I have time to be sick, if you will, because it happened. And afterwards, I was able to bounce back. But it is not scheduled. And so as one person has said, I don't even know who first said this, the only constant thing about life is change. And so we have to be ready for it when the next curve comes.
And you need to learn how to count your blessings. It
Absolutely.
Makes you slow down and take a better look around you, gives you a better understanding of your parents and your in-laws or your aunts or uncles, of what life has thrown at them and how they handle it. And maybe they didn't become president of the New York Stock Exchange, but they still were triumphant in whatever goal they set out for themselves to achieve. So it really makes you take a good look around and say to yourself, it could be worse.
Absolutely, it could be worse. Exactly. And if I had not gotten up that day and decided to go ahead and go, I would have been in my condo that Friday morning. And because I travel a lot, I'm a world traveler, people would not have thought about me and thought anything was wrong until I wouldn't have shown up for work that Monday morning. And so that would have been an entire weekend. And as you know, Lillian, in the world of strokes, time is brain. And who knows? Well, first of all, I think I would have been dead because this was so massive. And even if I wasn't, I would have been severely debilitated.
Exactly. I mean, the people in my community where I live, if they don't see my car move from the position it was in from the day before, they get worried. And they'll come knocking on my door to make sure I'm still alive and well. And I do the same thing with them. If I don't see their car move from their spot, and it's still there that same 24-hour period, I get worried because everybody goes out and uses their car or takes it out for a spin. So if it's in that spot for 2 days at a time, you know something's wrong. And you go out and try to find out what the problem is. So I know when my mother was in her, 80s, and she fell in the bathtub, ladies and gentlemen, nobody knew about it until the next week when her son came in to check up on her to make sure she was okay. She spent 3 days in that bathtub.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
She was in pretty bad state. So you need to think about things like that. I know you don't want to think about things like that. You're strong, you're young, you're internal. Well, not forever maybe. But the thing of the matter is things do happen. And a good thought would be to tell your friends, if you don't hear from me in 24 hours, come looking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, Lillian, you mentioned earlier counting your blessings and, you know, really kind of slowing down. Hasn't this pandemic really gotten us to kind of slow down and really, you know, even with everything that's going on, we have had to slow down, pay attention to our family, be with our family, you know, talk about things, be without the things that we're used to being without or being with, I should say, and even in the tragedy, because we have lost so many lives, and now we're, you know, in the middle of unrest across the country because of police brutality. People we're still here, and we're still able to overcome, and young people are out there, but they need to really just pay attention to the things around them and pay attention to what they can do to change.
Exactly. This is the country's massive stroke.
Yes.
That he
absolutely. And we need to find our voice.
Yes. And it has given people an opportunity to really realize what's important and what's not so important. But the basic thing is to take a good look around and say, we were hit badly, but look at what happened in Italy. Look what happened in Africa. Look at some of the other countries in Europe, or the Swiss who refuse to isolate anybody, and their numbers are climbing daily. And so we are in pretty good shape despite what has happened in terms of the pandemic. And I think it's always a good idea for people to take a step back and to see what they have as opposed to what they don't have.
Absolutely. Have you seen that commercial? There's an older woman who is talking about the fact that she was born in a pandemic and that she is still here. And I think that is such a great commercial and such a great reminder to everybody.
Especially since she was born in the early part of the 20th century, 1900s.
Yep.
So, and she managed in a non-technological world where the hospitals and medicine were still in its infancy. It wasn't anything compared to what we have today. No social media, no cell phones, probably no phones in some of the really rural sections of this country where they probably still didn't have plumbing or electricity. Hey, folks, my grandmother, and I'm sure yours was born in the late 1890s. They didn't have any of that stuff.
They sure didn't.
Think about what was going on during that period as compared to what's going on now in our period, it's pretty scary stuff, yet they prevailed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so can
I
we.
think it's important to realize that you have a lot of blessings to count.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Vivian, please tell everybody where they can find you, your book, and anything that you want to brag about on the World Wide Web.
Well, you can, since I'm always on Facebook, you can come to my author page at author Vivian L. King. If you put that in, you'll get to my author page. And so I'm always on there, and you can send me messages and write messages and see what we're doing and where I'm going. Also, my website, vivianlking.com, will have similar things. But I, have a little more fun on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn, Vivian King on LinkedIn. And my book can be found on Amazon. It also is on barnesandnoble.com. And right now it's in a local bookstore in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called Boswell Books. But hopefully we are looking for it to be in the bookstores, in Barnes & Noble at some point as well. Right now, though, it's just online there, and again online at Amazon.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, and adults of all ages, you can listen to Cool Your Heels with Lillian, interviewing Vivian King about her book, When the Words Suddenly Stopped, Finding My Voice Again After a Massive Stroke, on https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. Right-hand side menu, scroll down, Cool Your Heels with Lillian, click on it. If you're not wise about technology, we have a sizzle line, which is a phone line. Dial the appropriate number next to the name, and you'll hear the recording immediately. You'll also hear it on iTunes, iHeart, YouTube, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, and all the social directories, which you can also find over on our website. And before you go away and stray, Voltaire had this to say in the 18th century: one always speaks badly when one has nothing to say. Thank you all very much for listening, and remember, stay healthy and have a great weekend. Vivian, still there?
I am. Thank you so much, Lillian. That was wonderful.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I will send you the MP3 when it's finished.
Okay.
And
perfect.
If you would like to do something saying about what happened to Mr. Floyd, you're more than welcome to say your piece on PWTR.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I think it's important that people realize that there are ways of getting your voice heard without resorting to the streets and using violence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, you're just bringing yourself down to the level of what the police did, and that really bothers me, because there has to be, Gandhi used it a lot. There has to be a way of achieving and having your voices heard without resorting to the very thing that you're opposing in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you would like to get other voices in there with you, let me know, and I can set you guys up on the in the conference room, and we can record it and then put it out there.
Okay, I will definitely think about that, because I'm a member of my sorority, and we did participate. Some of us participated in the Kneel for 9. And, it was just, go to different places and kneel for, almost 9 minutes, if you will.
And well, and something. We can do that remotely through video and do it live.
Oh, okay.
Through Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So if you and your sorority want to do that, and you want to contact all your former affiliations when you were working as an anchor lady, or I just think it sounds better than anchor woman. Anchor lady has a lot more. Hey, what can I say? Anchor lady, I mean, if it's good enough for Mary, it's good enough for us. So, anchor
right.
lady. And I'm sure you had an associates there, and you may want to talk to them and say, well, we're going to have this, and, we can do it that way, and they, we can bring in the participants and everything.
Okay. I will reach out to them. We actually have a meeting on Saturday, so I will touch base with my sorority first and see what they want to do.
Okay. That sounds, really good, because that way it helps you heal.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep on thinking to myself, well, how would I like it if black policemen did that to a white guy? Would we get upset? You better believe it. But unfortunately, we would get upset with guns, knives. And that kind of behavior really needs to be recircuited.
Mm-hmm.
And something you may want to think about is maybe putting together a program where you talk about the different ways the black community can achieve some of the results they want without resorting to violence.
Well, actually we are doing that because I work for, I do some part-time work for the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health, and I'm communications advisor for 2 programs. One is the All of Us Research Program, which looks at precision medicine, and the other is the Life Course Initiative for Healthy Families, which really looks at closing the gap between babies, white mothers and black mothers, and having and infant mortality. And so we are actually we've already had a couple of Zoom webinars, and so we're going to have another one coming up. So we are definitely doing that already, and we're just hoping to get the word out. And my boss has been on air as well, talking about they had a thing on COVID-19 and why is it ravaging the black and brown communities of society. And so we've been talking about all of the different comorbidities and all of the different racism and discrimination that's causing chronic stress that's leading to COVID-19 really ravaging black and brown communities even more so than our white counterparts.
Right. Well, it's something that's PWTR has a very wide reach. We're now heard in 167 countries. And you would really get heard, and you really would pick up here. So if you want to try and get some of those, through the station, I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk with you and see how we can help each other, because I really think that it just can't go on the way it's going. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I agree.
It's been getting worse and worse. I mean, they're making comparisons now between 1968 and 2020. What's wrong with that picture? Well, I can tell you what's wrong with the picture. I was around during the 50s. I was born in the 50s, and I participated in the peace marches in the 60s. And things have not changed. That people can delude themselves about it, but things really have not changed for the middle class and lower middle class black communities. It just hasn't. Because the laws in this country are so unequal of how they're applied, and they're so unjust in how they perceive things to be that, I mean, I had a friend whose son at 12 was already over 6 feet. And he was crossing the street, and he was arrested by the cops because he didn't have an ID on him. And she had to come and bail him out and said she's only 12 years old. And they looked at her and they said, well, somebody's lying. Well, they wouldn't talk. Well, maybe they would to a lower class white. But basically, they wouldn't talk down like that to a white mother.
Right.
And then you have, and so what I'm trying to say is, are the police being trained the wrong way? Or are they picking up prejudice from the areas that are submitting to go to the police academies? So where do we need to go and weed out the bad behavior so that the right kind of behavior is reinforced in these men and women who are going to be trained at the police academy, who eventually will become police people?
Right.
And that's where my concerns are. I think you need to start down at wherever these kids are coming from. I mean, everybody knows that it's the ones who can't make it into college. What I was called when I was coming up, the dregs of society are the ones who get into the military. Well, I take offense at that. I don't like to be called a dreg, if you don't mind. But that's how a lot of people, I mean, it's right up there with thug. So, and I don't see much of a difference. And so we have to change those labels.
Yeah, America is such a label-conscious society. It just drives me crazy. It really does.
Well, think about where we came from originally. Most of the people came from the United Kingdom. And then in turn they came from Germany and Italy and then some of the other places. And you think about it, they're all male-dominated societies where women were property along with the children. And then you have the classism from the old medieval period still lingering within the class system itself. And so who were the middle class that came out in the Renaissance? Those were the merchants who made money off the backs of the dregs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, people don't understand me. And I said, if you don't understand your history, then you're going to have trouble and your economics, then you're going to have trouble understanding why we have so much hate in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, the only people who are native to this country are the American Indians. Everybody else are transplants. And if you take a look at their so-called transplants, I mean, if I was a Kennedy, I wouldn't be boasting about the fact that my great-grandfather was a smuggler who brought in illegal booze and sold it to all the brothels. Right. I mean, that's where they got their wealth from. Come on.
Yeah.
So, food for thought. Well, I'm going to let you go. Otherwise, I'll keep you on the phone all day, and I'm sure you have some other things to do.
Well, thank you so much. It was so wonderful talking to you, Lillian. And I will keep in touch, and especially if I'm able to talk them into doing something with PWTR.
That would be terrific. And you also, as a thought, might want to consider writing a second book about what you've done and how much further you have gone and what you have learned that you feel like you must deliver to the next generation so they do not have a stroke.
Right.
Just a thought.
Yeah, a good thought. I will keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.